We're gonna call the meeting to order. It's 6:36 on Monday, April 3rd. We have some tech setup stuff tonight that is gonna preclude us from having the normal feed coming from the camera onto the table. So hopefully you'll be able to see at least a couple of us, but more importantly hear everything. And we can see you on Zoom. So apologies for that, but we'll work with what we got, because that's what we got and that's what we're going to work with. So the first order of business is to review and make any changes to the agenda. Does anybody have any changes to be made to the agenda? Additions or deletions?
I would like to offer that we table the discussion about the moving forward with the website contract for now, as I'd like a little bit more time to dig into it and discuss with both Zach and Liz.
Okay, so we've got a request from Emily to table the website contract discussion. If there's no objection, we'll table that until the future meeting. So hearing none, we'll remove that from tonight's agenda. Any other changes to the agenda to be made? Hearing none, we'll move on to the review and approval of the March 20th meeting minutes. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes of March 20th as written?
I'll make that motion.
We have a motion from Suzanne. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a second from Emily. Is there any discussion on the minutes? Hearing no discussion on the minutes, we'll vote. All those in favor of approving the minutes as written, please signify by saying aye or raising your hand.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, motion carries 3-0. Moving on to appointments. Actually, if there's no objection, I might skip over to visitors at this point and offer Marlena the floor. Just in the interest of her time and respecting her time, just because the appointments can take a while. And so if there's no objection, we'll give Marlena the floor and allow her to talk to us about the Municipal Energy Resilience Program. And that way she can hang out for the rest of the meeting if she wants to, or go on about her business of the evening. Does that work for you, Marlena?
Yes, it does. Thank you very much.
All right, great. So with that, you have the floor.
Wonderful. So can everyone hear me all right? Is this good volume?
Yep.
Yep.
I just want to basically give you a little intro and a heads up about a program that's still in the process of being rolled out. So the Municipal Energy Resilience Program has three parts to it. Basically, there's these $4,000 mini grants that towns can use for outreach and community engagement. So things like mailings to let all of your residents know about incentives, or it could be a green career fair for students, or an energy fair for all residents, things like that to, kind of increase public awareness and engagement. It can also be used to start an energy committee, which is kind of a tall order. So there's these $4,000 mini grants. They're non-competitive. Every municipality has access to them. And BGS, Building and General Services, who's administering this grant, is really urging municipalities to wait on that. If you don't have something, you're really ready to use the money for, the application will be open for 2 years, I believe, until the end of 2024. So, there is some time to really figure out how that can best be used for the town. So, that is something I am here to help you work through and decide on. And then, so I'm the energy and climate planner for the Northwest Regional Planning Commission, in case I did not make that known. And so that's one piece, and it's separate. It is not, you don't need to access that part to access the rest of the grant. So the rest of it is assessments for municipal buildings. And once you get an assessment, you can access, or you can apply for up to $500,000 to basically implement the changes they recommended in the assessment. So this really covers a pretty wide range of things, from heating systems to electrical upgrades, to weatherization. You know, BGS is aware that a lot of our municipal buildings are old and have been kept running with the kind of patching effect. And so this is really to try and get our municipal buildings to a place where they're not just sucking money, and they're a lot more efficient, and they're in a good place going forward. So they're saying right now every town gets at least one assessment. That's for sure. There is kind of a possibility that towns could get more than one assessment on buildings. So, you know, it's good to start considering what buildings are most in need of this. This applies to any municipally owned building except for schools. So, you know, we've had questions about buildings that towns rent out. Those are still eligible. And so I'm not sure what Montgomery is kind of in the place of right now. I also know there have been questions about buildings in kind of mid renovation, and that's a question that is still being discussed. BGS really isn't giving any hard no's right now. They want to include as many municipalities and buildings as possible. So it seems like there is definitely space for buildings that are getting, you know, a facelift already, and using the assessment and the implementation money to basically just improve the energy efficiency of what was already going to happen. And, you know, the reason I am kind of reaching out and especially talking to Montgomery is you're one of our 5 towns that has a high energy burden. And so that makes you high on the list to receive that implementation money, that up to $500,000. So you are in, you know, a really good spot to receive that. I know that was a lot of information. Does anyone have any kind of immediate questions?
So just to clarify, so the grants for 4,000 are around kind of increasing capacity to pursue energy resilience, more kind of putting together the human capital and the thought partnerships to move things forward. And then the grants up to 500,000 are actually to support renovation projects themselves. So actually physical work.
Yeah.
So one thing I'll just say, so you're aware of it, and so anybody listening, so we do have plans to renovate this building that we're sitting in now, the public safety building, to better accommodate the town office, make some changes to the library, and also improve efficiencies. So at a minimum, this sounds like it would be a great opportunity to tap into some of those funds for anything related to energy efficiency here. Yeah, one thing that really strikes me with the program is there's a part of the program, it sounds like, that looks at replacing fossil fuel heating systems with more efficient, renewable or electric alternatives. And personally, one thing I would love to investigate is what it would take to replace our current heating system with something that uses advanced wood heat, either chips or pellets. Given that we've got manufacturers of those developing locally, using locally harvested materials. So, I mean, I think it sounds like great. So I'm excited to follow up on this and get more details. The sequencing, do we have to get an assessment done first and then apply to the $500,000 bucket?
Yep.
Okay. And is the assessment part of the $4,000 grant? Or is that like a thing?
It's its own thing. The application should be coming out pretty soon. And they're free assessments. That's what that kind of application will be for, is to assessments. And it's worth noting there's 2 levels of assessment, level 1 and level 2. Level 1 is more basic. They're both free and they both qualify you for the implementation fund. The only kind of difference is that with the more in-depth level 2, you get a lot more information, and qualifies you well for other grants federally and at the state level. The only kind of drawback to that is it requires a little more staff work because they ask for like old utility bills, building history, things like that. And so it can just take a little bit of time, you know, to collect those. So either one is, you know, they don't care which one you do, whatever works better for the town. But yes, so the assessment first, and then that opens you up to the implementation funds because it will be able to tell you what you would need.
Awesome. Other questions at the table?
Did someone say something? I didn't hear it. Sorry.
Speak up a little bit because of the mic. Sorry.
I can't hear.
So I think the question was, what makes Montgomery a high energy burden town?
That's a great question. So energy burden is the percent your residents spend on energy on average. So that includes transportation, heating, and electric. And that takes into account all of your residents and what percentage they spend of their income on those three things.
And that's a percentage of MHI, of mean household income?
Yep. Yes.
Do you happen to know off the top of your head what that percentage is?
Yes, I can actually pull that up. That's it is 15%. So you are ranked in the highest category.
And you said that is energy burden related to home heating, cooling, all that kind of stuff. Did you say the transportation sector also fits in there?
Yeah. Yep, exactly. And actually, so you're kind of in a little bubble with a couple other towns, Richford, Enosburg, Berkshire, all rank high as well.
Yeah.
There is also an opportunity with these $4,000 mini grants. You can work together if you want to kind of do something as kind of a group. You know, that increases complexity and with working together, but that is something, you know, if you're looking for collaboration or creating those networks, that is definitely possible.
Great. I do see I have a question from Sue on Zoom. Sue, do you want to ask your question?
Yes, Charlie, I wanted to know whether maybe you would consider the town hall Grange in here, because we'll be needing to do some upgrades to that building too.
Yeah, I think we can talk about the town hall Grange, this building, the 98 Main Street building. I think we have a few different structures that we can look to.
Yeah, I just don't want the Grange to fall out of.
Yep.
That's okay.
No,
Thank
certainly.
you.
Thanks, Sue.
And hopefully you will be able to get multiple assessments. So it would be great to be able to look at, you know, a couple buildings, and the implementation one can be split between multiple buildings as well.
Awesome. Well, this sounds great. So I know there's a webinar, I think on April 18th that VLCT might be leading. So we'll try to get somebody hooked into that. But yeah, we'll definitely follow up with you for any assistance on the next steps here, but you can, I think, count us in.
Awesome. That is great. Yep. And I am here to really, you know, help walk you through this process, answer any questions. And, you know, things really are still rolling out. So there's not answers to every question yet. But the VLCT webinar should be very helpful in, you know, shedding some light on that and having some kind of final answers. And there should be a recording. So even if someone can't make it day of, it'll be valuable. And I will send that recording around. And I appreciate your time very much. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much. Like I said, you're welcome to hang out for the rest of the meeting if you want, but we will take no offense if you want to hop off and go do something else.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Have a good night.
All right, take care.
Thank you.
Since we're on visitors, why don't we stick with visitors for now? Sue, do you have anything tonight for visitors?
No,
No, I do not.
Okay, thank you. Roberta, anything tonight for visitors?
No, just watching.
Okay, well, it's nice to see you.
See you too.
It was great to see Whitney too this weekend, by the way. Hadn't seen her in a while, so it was fun to see her face.
Yeah, she
Did mention that she saw you.
Yeah, no, it's always great.
She said
She said she hung out with the guys because there was no girls.
Yeah, we're more fun anyway. All right, so with that, we're gonna hop back to appointments, number 3 on our agenda. And so we will go down through this list as efficiently as possible. As a reminder, appointments take a nomination. Nominations don't require a second. So we will start with Water Commission. First up is a Water Commission seat for a 3-year term, Suzanne Delois' term expiring. Is there a nomination for a Water Commission seat with a 3-year term? We'll open nominations. I will nominate Suzanne Delois. Are there any other nominations? Hearing no other nominations, we'll close nominations. All those in favor of Suzanne serving a 3-year term on the Water Commission, please signify by saying aye or raising your hand.
Aye.
You're gonna have to vote for this too, otherwise we can't pass it.
Sure.
Great.
Is that, oh, can I vote
Yeah,
for
you can
myself?
vote for yourself. yeah.
Okay.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Great, motion carries, and we have reappointed Suzanne. Next up is a 2-year seat on the Water Commission. This is a 2-year seat, Emily Kimball's seat expiring. We will open nominations for a 2-year seat on the Water Commission.
I'll nominate Emily.
We have a nomination from Suzanne for Emily Kimball. Do we have any other nominations? Hearing none, we'll close nominations. All those in favor of Emily Kimball serving as a Water Commissioner for a 2-year seat, please signify by saying aye or raising your hand.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Moving on, Development Review Board. There's a 4-year term, seat expiring. Parma Jewett currently holds this seat. I have spoken with Parma and she is interested in being reappointed, so we will open nominations.
I'll nominate Parma Jewett.
We have a nomination for Parma Jewett. Are there any other nominations? Hearing no other nominations, we'll close nominations. All those in favor of Parma Jewett serving a 4-year term on the Development Review Board, please signify by saying aye or raising your hand. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries, and you have reappointed Parma. Next up is a 4-year seat on the Development Review Board. This position serving as an alternate. Mark Briette, term expiring. We will open nominations for a 4-year seat serving as an alternate on the DRB. Are there any nominations?
I'll nominate Mark Briette.
We have a nomination for Mark Briette. Are there any other nominations? Hearing none, we'll close nominations. All those in favor of Mark Briette serving a 4-year term as an alternate on the Development Review Board, please signify by saying aye or raising your hand.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? You have reappointed Mark Briette. Next up, Agent to Convey Real Estate, 1-year term, Barry Cade's term expiring. We will open nominations for an Agent to Convey Real Estate.
I'll nominate Barry Cade.
We have a nomination for Barry Cade. Are there any other nominations? Hearing none, we'll close nominations. All those in favor of Barry Cade serving a 1-year term as an agent to convey real estate, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Great, you're reappointed Barry. Next up is the Budget Committee. This is a 5-seat board, all a 1-year term. Terms expiring are Scott Perry, Mark Briette, Sue Wilson, Aaron Kopax, and Charlie Hancock.
Can we do a lump nomination?
If there is a move to appoint a slate, we will entertain that.
I'll appoint the slate formally holding that seat.
Okay, we have a nomination of the existing slate by Suzanne. Are there any other nominations? Hearing none, we'll close nominations. All in favor of reappointing the existing slate of the Budget Committee for a 1-year term, please signify by saying aye or raising your hand.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Or any objections? Any abstentions? Hearing none, you've reappointed the Budget Committee.
I need their names again.
So that was Scott Perry,
Yep,
Mark Biette,
yep.
Sue Wilson, Aaron Kopax, and Charlie Hancock. Next up, we have a Director of Disaster and Emergency Management, one-year term expiring, Greg Lucas. Do we have any nominations for Director of Disaster and Emergency Management?
Does he want that nomination, you think?
I think so. I haven't heard back from him at all yet.
Cool. I'll nominate Greg Lucas.
Great, we have a nomination for Greg Lucas. Are there any other nominations? Hearing none, we will close nominations. All those in favor of Greg Lucas serving a one-year term as Director of Disaster and Emergency Management, please signify by saying aye or raising your hand.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Great, we've reappointed Greg. Next up is a Deputy Director of Disaster and Emergency Management. This is now vacant. Brent Godin held this seat. He did resign about a month ago due to other commitments. So we do have a vacant seat here. I will nominate Doug Kopax to be the Deputy Disaster and Emergency Management, Deputy Director of Disaster and Emergency Management. Are there any other nominations? Hearing no other nominations, we'll close nominations. All those in favor of Doug Kopax serving as the Deputy Director of Disaster and Emergency Management, please signify by saying aye or raising your hand.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Great. We have appointed Doug as Deputy Director. Next up, we have fence viewers. This is three seats, all a one-year term, currently held by the listers. Was this not on the?
The fence viewers are not listed on our agenda. The health officer is the next.
Okay, I must have missed listing the fence viewers in the agenda. So if
Put them at the end.
well, I mean, given that it wasn't a duly warned appointment, what we can do is table this until the next meeting. So we will table the fence viewer appointments. My guess is there will be probably minimal need for fence viewing between now and then, but in the interim, the listers can still perform that duty. With that, we will go to health officer. This is a 3-year term. Suzanne's term is expiring 12/31/23. So Sue's term actually goes through to the end of the year. If we had somebody who was interested in the job at this point, Sue has indicated that she will resign and hand over the reins. I did have a chance to talk with Paul Furland last week. Paul, as folks might know, worked for the health department for a number of years. He had expressed interest in the past in serving in this position. I did ask him about it when I saw him. He's currently serving on a contract with the health department. So he's not still employed in the same position, but he is working under a contract with them now. I don't know the duration of the contract, but he did say to check back with him. So if there is no objection from anyone at the table, and if Sue won't kill us, we will table the appointment of health officer for now until we can get better clarity of that or a different candidate that might step up.
Is he a resident?
Does that work for you, Sue? Okay, thank you. Yes, Paul lives on Hill West.
Oh, really?
Yep. No, West Hill. I live on Hill West.
Yes, you do,
Yes.
Charlie.
Yeah, Paul and Sue.
Sue DeLeo.
Sue, it is Sue. Sue. Pottery?
Oh,
Potter.
of course, yeah, Paul.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it's
Fernald.
Fernald.
F-E-R-N-A-L-D.
Fernald.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Yeah, he was the health inspector for the restaurants.
Yes.
Yeah, totally.
Yep.
Okay.
So we will table the health officer appointment until a later date, noting that it does carry through till the end of the year. Moving on, animal control officer, 1-year term, Linda Kluba, term expiring. I have spoken with Linda and she is interested in being reappointed. So we will open nominations for animal control officer.
I will nominate Linda Kuba.
We have a nomination for Linda Kluba from Emily. Are there any other nominations? Hearing no other nominations, we'll close nominations. All those in favor of Linda Kluba serving a 1-year term as animal control officer, please signify by saying aye or raising your hand.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Hearing none, we have reappointed Linda Kluba. Next up is the Northwest Solid Waste District Representative. This is a 3-year term, Barry Cade, term expiring. Do we have any nominations for Northwest Solid Waste District Rep?
I'll nominate Barry Cade.
We have a nomination for Barry Cade from Suzanne. Are there any other nominations? Hearing none, we'll close nominations. All those in favor of Barry Cade serving a 3-year term as the Northwest Solid Waste District Representative, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Great, you've reappointed Barry. Next up, Transportation Advisory Representative. This is a 1-year term, Mark Briette, term expiring. We will open nominations for Transportation Advisory Rep.
Nominate Mark Briette.
We have a nomination for Mark Briette from Suzanne. Are there any other nominations? Hearing no other nominations, we'll close nominations. All those in favor of Mark Briette serving a 1-year term as Transportation Advisory Representative, please signify by saying aye or raising your hand. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Great, you've reappointed Mark. Next up is the Transportation Advisory Alternate. This is also a 1-year term, Leanne Barnard, term expiring. I should note too that Leanne did email tonight to say that she has a stomach bug, which is why she's not here, so she's not feeling well. So, we will open nominations for a Transportation Advisory Alternate.
I'll nominate Leanne Barnard.
Okay, we have a nomination for Leanne. Are there any other nominations? Hearing no other nominations, we'll close nominations. All those in favor of Leanne Barnard serving as the Transportation Advisory Alternate for a 1-year term, please signify by saying aye or raising your hand. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Great, you've reappointed Leanne. Moving on to the Recreation Board, we have a 3-year term, Marcia Phillips, term expiring. We will open nominations for a 3-year term on the Recreation Board.
Does she want the Marcia? I nominate Marcia Phillips.
We have a nomination for Marcia Phillips. Are there any other nominations? Hearing no other nominations, we'll close nominations. All those in favor of Marcia Phillips serving a 3-year term on the Recreation Board, please signify by saying aye or raising your hand.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? You have reappointed Marcia. Next up, MRBA, Missisquoi River Basin Association Wild and Scenic Representative. These are 2 1-year terms, Carissa Stein and Cynthia Scott, both expiring this year. If you want, we can reappoint this as a slate or take them singularly. We will open nominations now for the MRBA Wild and Scenic Representatives.
I nominate the existing slate.
We have a nomination for the existing slate of Carissa Stein and Cynthia Scott. Are there any other nominations? Hearing no other nominations, we'll close nominations. All those in favor of Carissa Stein and Cynthia Scott serving a 1-year term as the town's MRBA Wild and Scenic Reps, please signify by saying aye or raising your hand. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Next up, we have the Community Garden Board. These are 7 seats, all 1-year terms, all expiring this year. Currently, the board consists of Remy Gratton, Wendy Howard, Genevieve Lodell-Guild, Parma Jewett, Hannah Sorensen, Casey Krieger, and Tiffany Jones. We can handle these one at a time, or we can appoint as a slate.
I'll nominate the existing slate.
We have a nomination of the existing slate of 7 to be reappointed to the Community Garden Board. So that would be reappointing Remy, Wendy, Genevieve, Parma, Hannah, Casey, and Tiffany. Are there any other nominations to the Community Garden Board? Hearing no other nominations, we'll close nominations. All those in favor of reappointing the existing Community Garden Board for a 1-year term, please signify by saying aye or raising your hand. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Great, you have reappointed the existing Community Garden Board. Next up, Conservation Commission. We have a 4-year term expiring. Karen Stanley currently holds this seat. So we will open nominations for a 4-year term on the Conservation Commission. Sue, I'll just ask, are you aware, does Karen want to continue on the seat?
Yes, she does.
Great, thank you.
I'll nominate Karen.
Great, we have a nomination for Karen Stanley to fill the 4-year term on the Conservation Commission. Are there any other nominations? Hearing no other nominations, we'll close nominations. All those in favor of Karen Stanley serving a 4-year term on the Conservation Commission, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Great, you're reappointed Karen. Next up, Town Newsletter Editor, 1-year term, Suzanne Delois, term expiring. We will open nominations for a Town Newsletter Director for a 1-year term.
I will nominate Suzanne.
We have a nomination for Suzanne. Are there any other nominations? Hearing no other nominations, we'll close nominations. All those in favor of Suzanne serving a 1-year term as the Town Newsletter Editor, please signify by saying aye or raising your hand.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Great, motion carries. Next up, Inspector of Lumber, Shingles, Wood, 1-year term, Charlie Hancock, term expiring. I will open nominations for Inspector of Lumber, Shingles, and Wood.
Nominate Charlie Hancock.
We have a nomination of Charlie Hancock. Are there any other nominations? Hearing no other nominations, we'll close nominations. All those in favor of Charlie Hancock serving a 1-year term as the Inspector of Lumber, Shingles, and Wood, please signify by saying aye or raising your hand.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you for your confidence. Next up is Tree Warden. This is a 1-year term, Charlie Hancock, term expiring.
I'll nominate Charlie Hancock.
We'll open nominations, and we have a nomination for Charlie Hancock from Suzanne.
Y'all are really fast here.
Are there any other nominations? Hearing no other nominations, we'll close nominations. All those in favor of Charlie Hancock serving a 1-year term as Tree Warden, please signify by saying aye or raising your hand.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you again for your confidence.
You ever been called to duty on that one, Charlie?
No, I have not yet, which is actually kind of amazing because in a lot of towns that job gets a lot of.
Knock on wood.
Yeah. This is real wood. It's real wood.
Maybe.
Possibly.
I think it is real wood.
Yeah.
Last but not least, one of the most important positions in our community, wearer of coal. This is a 1-year term. Jacob Recuson, term expiring. We will now open nominations for wearer of coal.
I will nominate Emily Kimball.
Yes.
Ooh, we have
dream come
we have a nomination for Emily Kimball. Are there any other nominations? Hearing none, we will close nominations. All those in favor of Emily Kimball serving a 1-year term as wearer of coal, please signify by saying aye or raising your hand.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Great, you have appointed Emily Kimball, wearer of coal.
Thank you.
You can make your business cards now.
Yeah.
Yes.
Great, and that brings us through the appointments. I want to pause for 1 sec and just check in with Emily if you need any clarification of anything for the minutes or a minute to catch up on anything. I know we moved through that pretty fast.
Nope, we will maybe come back to some spelling post-meeting.
That's fine.
Great.
Great. I'm gonna pause on Public Works for now in the hope that Mark might be here. Just as a reminder, this is the time of year when lots of little animals have more little animals and Mark gets to act as midwife. So for all I know, he's
Welcoming new life.
welcoming new life into the world. So we will give him a pass. So we'll pause on Public Works for now and move on to old business. First up is an update on the municipal wastewater project. So the update that I have for this evening is that last week I met with the Vermont Economic Progress Council to discuss our application to the Community Revitalization and Recovery Program. If folks remembered, we had asked for $1 million to provide supplemental funds to support the municipal wastewater project. To be a little bit more detailed, these funds would go against the debt service. Just as a reminder again, the way that the USD Rural Development package is set up, when they offered us the grant and the loan package, any funds that come into that after the setting of those numbers by RD technically go against the grant portion. So for the past 3 years, we've been trying to figure out ways to get more money in but not lose any of the grant funding. RD has worked with us really well to ensure that other funds that have come in are explicitly going towards buying down debt The plan being that we would close on the USDA RD loan at amount A, immediately apply a few significant balloon payments. The congressionally directed funding request is another example of that. Essentially buying down the debt to get it to a place where we can ensure affordability. Last week, after meeting with the Vermont Economic Progress Council, the council unanimously approved our ask for another $1 million for the project. And so the next step for that is the governor essentially has to okay and sign off on it, which I'm really hoping is a pro forma act. This brings another $1 million into the capital stack for the project. What this means in broad strokes now is that looking at a $16 million project, we now have $15 million in outside capital, which is going to reduce the town's final loan amount to $1 million, which ensures affordability based on the metrics that we came up with. A $1 million note can be serviced, a $1 million note plus the operation and maintenance costs annually combined can now be serviced through the local option tax revenue plus user fees. And with this level of debt, it keeps the user fees to just around $427 a year, I believe, which is, depending on what year MHI data you look at, just about 1% of mean household income. That's why the MHI thing about energy burden was kind of interesting to hear, that we're at 15% of mean household income when it comes to energy burden. This would be pegged at 1% of mean household income. So that was the target to get to. No other town in the state has ever had that project ratio of internal versus external funds. And we owe a lot to our partners at the state and the Vermont Bond Bank for pushing for us. So that's the update there.
Who was it that approved the 1 million? Sorry.
So this was a meeting of the Vermont Economic Progress Council. They review the CRRP applications and essentially pass them. From them, it goes up through a state team and then to the governor for signature. So we don't have the full and complete package signed, sealed, and delivered yet. I do have a call Friday set up with staff from that department to figure out next steps. And again, my hope is that the governor's approval here is pro forma. He's been really supportive in the past. If people remember, he called out Montgomery in his budget address. So we're hoping that we haven't done anything to piss him off in the meantime. So that's the wastewater project update. As far as the funding goes, next steps with the project itself are turning to legal matters. We'll talk about this in more detail in a second, but essentially the next steps are going to be to draft the ordinance which is going to govern the system, and then we need to get to work on easements. The construction and maintenance of this system will require an easement for every property owner that is impacted by the project. The easements will allow the town to go onto the properties to construct the system as well as maintain the system in perpetuity. We will need approximately 175 easements between the village and the center. That's going to take some considerable time, and so that is kind of the next thing to tackle as far as that project goes. On the streetscape side of things, the update there, if folks recall, we had a meeting with the engineers and VTrans a few weeks ago, at which point we reviewed the preliminary plans and gave the feedback that we all collected at that special meeting last month. After that meeting, VTrans handed off all of our comments and the plans to their permitting division, who was going to review them and get back to us with feedback. I have a meeting Wednesday with the project team and the state permitting department to basically go over their response to that. So I'm hoping that after that meeting, we'll have some more clarity on our questions around specificity on certain built features, but also the more broader question around a class 1 town highway versus maintaining a state controlled town highway, and what that would mean for the potential and opportunity for doing the various things we're looking at. So those are the updates as far as the wastewater system and the streetscape project go. Anybody have any questions? All right. Moving on, the next item under new business is the municipal attorney transition. So I hopped on a call last week with Charlie Merriman, who has been our town council for probably close to 2 decades. Went over these next steps around the drafting of the ordinance and governance of the system, as well as the need for the easements. Had a great conversation, lasted about an hour and a half with him and the team, following which he sent me a text that said, "I love you guys, don't take this personally, but this might be the time for you to find a new attorney." And I say that because Charlie is on a glide path towards retirement. I don't think he's planning on renewing his law license next year. And so he basically said, "Look, I love you guys, and I'm always happy to answer any questions you have. I'll even take them once I retire at no charge if you've got them, but for a project of this scale with this lift, you're gonna need somebody else." So, you know, just on the record, I want to thank Charlie for his many years of service to the community and for his sense of humor about everything. But we do need to find a new attorney. So I put out feelers to get some recommendations on firms. I got back about 5 different firms. The one that stood out the most was Tarrant, Gillies, and Sheems. I'm probably pronouncing that incredibly wrong. They are located in Montpelier. A few things that stand out with this firm is that they have a fairly large team. They do a significant amount of municipal work, so they do represent a number of municipalities. Charlie Merriman actually was part of this firm before he peeled off to start his own shop about 12 years ago, 13 years ago, I think. And Montgomery has worked with Tarrant, Gillies, and Sheems on some municipal work in the past 5 or 6 years. Paul Gillies was the attorney that drafted the bond language for the initial wastewater and streetscape votes. So he is familiar with the town. I had a pretty good chat with Mike Tarrant, who is the son of Gerald Tarrant, one of the partners. Had a good chat with him today, went over kind of the general needs that we need as a community, as well as the legal needs around this wastewater project. He's familiar with this kind of work. They've done similar projects for communities in the past, and they feel that they're well positioned to take up the work and get it done. I will note that they don't work on a retainer, so there is no set retainer that we need to pay them. There is a general municipal representation letter of engagement, which he did send back. This outlines their fee structure. Attorneys, their fees are $180 an hour. Legal assistants bill out at $150 an hour. I will note that their standard rate is $300 an hour for attorneys, so they do give a heavily discounted rate to municipalities that they work with. By way of comparison, Charlie's rate was $150 an hour for his work, so we'd be looking at about a $30 an hour increase for the attorney's fees. I do think Charlie was underbilling us, just because that was his want and how he operated. The rest of the engagement letter is kind of boilerplate around how expenses may be paid. You know, they accept Visa, MasterCard, Discover, implications for failure to payment, and then some notes about at the completion of representation, how long they hold our file. But the main thrust of it is a letter of engagement would bring them on to start working with us, and we can start directing them towards the subject area needs for the projects. Again, the main points here being that their rates are $180 an hour for the attorneys and legal assistants at $150 an hour. I have not had any substantial conversations with any of the other firms that I did get some feedback on. Frankly, and in all honesty, I don't really have time to interview 4 more law firms this week. And we do need to get this going. I feel pretty comfortable with these guys, but I do want to open it up now to question and discussion by board members if we've got any.
I'm familiar with Tarrant, Gillies, and Shems because the MCA uses them.
Oh.
And they've always been really responsive and
Can't hear her.
efficient.
Suzanne was saying that she has worked with this firm before in her role with the MCA, and that she's always found the firm to be efficient and responsive to needs. Any questions? No? Sue, I see your hand up. Do you have any questions?
Not
Not a question, it was just a comment that I worked with Paul Gillies in the past on the MCA when I was originally
getting the
getting the
MCA
MCA
back
back, or
well, the
the
Baptist Church back up.
The firm was great to work with. They were really great, and I worked directly with Paul. So,
Good
good
things.
things.
Great. Well, it's good to hear another good endorsement. So I guess what I would ask of the board this evening is authorization to return a signed copy of the letter of engagement and begin work with the firm of Tarrant, Gillies and Sheems for all municipal needs and specifically beginning work on the legal needs surrounding the wastewater project.
Yeah,
Is that a motion?
I'll make that motion.
All right, so we have a motion from Suzanne. Is there a second?
Yes.
We have a second from Emily. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote. So all those in favor of authorizing Charlie to sign and return the letter of engagement with Tarrant, Gillies, and Sheems for all municipal needs of the community, please signify by saying aye or raising your hand. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Great, motion carries. Website contract was removed, so before we go back and hit liquor licenses and fleet permits, which is how we always love to end the evening, I will go to Public Works. Mark is not here, so we don't have any updates from Mark. The one thing I know that he had called out specifically was about the municipal highway grant application. This is a Class 2 roadway application for the work on Fuller Bridge. It's a 2-pager. It outlines that we need to repave. Needs to be okay. Culvert replacement. I guess there is a culvert replacement included in this, but this is primarily subject to repaving Fuller Bridge Road. As folks remember, we talked about this last time. Last paved in 2009. We need to get the application in now for funding for FY24 in order to execute this on a timely manner. So is there a motion to submit the FY24 municipal highway grant application for the paving work on Fuller Bridge Road as well as any associated culvert work which might be included?
I'll make that motion.
Great, we have a motion from Suzanne. Is there a second?
Yes, I'll second the motion.
We have a second from Emily.
Mark's email says that he's still working on the culvert grant.
Okay, great. So we have a motion made and seconded. So with that, is there any further discussion? Hearing no further discussion, we can vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye or raising your hand.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries, and we will authorize Mark to submit the municipal highway grant application. I'm not sure about the center line paving, which is on here, and as I'm looking at this paperwork, I'm wondering if I might have misunderstood Mark and separated two things out, which we didn't need to separate out. I will take one more quick peek in here just to see if there's anything else that looks to be applicable to that, but I don't think there is. Okay, so the centerline paving, this is subject to a letter we received. V-Trans contractors and staff will endeavor to mark all paved Class 1 and 2 highways with painted center lines this season. The painting season runs from April 1st to October 31st, so please plan accordingly. To schedule this work as efficiently as possible, V-Trans needs to know which road in your municipality are scheduled for repair and or treatment as early as possible. This will improve scheduling of equipment and help avoid unnecessary paintings of roads prior to resurfacing. Look at that, the state trying to be efficient. This looks to be something that is basically just Mark providing information, so I don't believe any action is required by the board we will just flag that for Mark to get back in touch with the state so that they know what we're doing. All right, so with that, we will move on to liquor licenses.
And it's centerline painting, correct? Not paving?
Centerline painting, yes.
Okay, it's listed as paving.
Sorry. They will pave the roads and paint the center lines. Or, in some cases, we will pave the roads and they will paint the center lines. All right, so first liquor license we have up is for Thompson Himes Enterprises LLC, DBA The Belfry. This is a first class and third class liquor license. I'll have to ask him. I don't see an outside consumption permit, which I would have expected to see. But we have a first class and third class liquor license from the Belfry. So is there a motion to approve the first and third class liquor license for the Belfry?
I'll make that motion.
Great, we have a motion from Suzanne. Is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
We have a second from Emily. Great, is there any discussion? Hearing no further discussion, we will vote. All those in favor of approving the liquor licenses as presented, please signify by saying aye or raising your hand. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Great, motion carried, and you have approved the liquor license. We do have some fleet permits to approve. If there's no objection, we will table these to the next meeting so that the road commissioner can review them before approval, as is our standard operating procedure.
Sorry.
Oh, it's you. Okay, sorry. I have phantom phone vibration things happening all the
me.
time, and I was like, is my phone vibrating? Am I vibrating?
That's good. I thought I was.
Someone's vibrating.
Sorry.
No, it's fine. It's fine.
I don't know who it was.
And that brings us through the end of our agenda. So, a motion to adjourn would be in order.
I will make a motion to adjourn.
Great, we have a motion to actually, let me pause that for 1 second. I do see that we have a Motorola One 5G that joined the meeting. I just want to pause for a moment and acknowledge the new visitor and give them the floor if they have anything for the board.
Hey Charlie, this is Mark.
Oh, hey, Mark.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I had
had
an
an animal get out the other,
my
not my other farm, so that's what held me up.
Okay, no worries. I think we've discussed and approved the paving application, so that's good to go. We are going to hold the fleet permits until you can review them. So
But I
But I just have
I've got the culvert one almost done, and it's gonna be in by the 15th. But I
But I just have a motion that I could approve it away from the table and send it in.
sure.
Before then.
I think we did.
Sure. So I will move that we authorize Mark Briette, the road commissioner, to sign and submit the culvert replacement grant request away from the table. Is there a second?
I'll second.
We have a second from Suzanne. Is there any further discussion?
That's for
That's for Fuller Bridge Road.
Okay, for Fuller Bridge Road, great. If there's no further discussion, we'll call the question. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Great, motion carries. So you're authorized to do that, Mark.
Okay,
Okay,
okay.
I just wanna make sure, get that in.
Okay,
Okay.
great. So did you get the animal back?
Yeah,
We just got through the fence and got it back in.
Okay, good. Well, that's good.
It's been
It's been one of those
Mondays.
Mondays.
Oh, I hear ya. All right. Well, with that, then a motion to adjourn would be in order.
I will make another motion to adjourn.
We have a motion from Suzanne. Is there a second?
A second.
We have a second from Emily. Is there further discussion on the motion? Hearing no further discussion, we'll call the question. All those in favor of adjournment, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries, and the meeting is adjourned at 7:30 p.m.